This show is bananas.
B-A-N-A-N-A.
We've transformed the room, and hopefully it's a little bit better. Thank you for your patience, and welcome to the 5th annual VCF Midwest YouTubers panel. I'd like to see how quickly I can introduce everyone. We have a couple of new faces on the panel and a couple of familiar favorites. Immediately to my left is Jason Compton from This Week in Retro.
I'm one of those two things.
That's right. We have Amy and Taylor, split by Adrian from Adrian's Digital Basement.
Did that on purpose.
It was on purpose.
And of course, Kate Fox from Macintosh Librarian. We have Veronica from Veronica Explains. We have Matt from Polymat. David Murray from The 8-Bit Guy. Clint from LGR. And Sean from Action Retro. And I'm your humble host, Jim Leonard. That's not the way it's supposed to work. They're supposed to get the applause. A couple of big changes actually happened in YouTube. I want to go over a little bit of some YouTube Inside Baseball initially, because I know that a lot of the people who come to these talks are aspiring YouTube creators themselves, and any information and tips that we can get, we certainly try to pass on. In late 2024, YouTube made a substantial change to their recommendation engine that now tracks every user individually. They used to do it by groups or by IP blocks. But if you've ever tried to watch a video while not signed in and have it not play the video and tell you to sign in, that's why. And it's kind of shuffled around how YouTube has been operating for the past 9 months. And I wanted to start off with a discussion for the people who currently make their living on YouTube, or at least is a substantial part of their income. Have you noticed these changes? Certainly one of the most recent changes was in mid-August, and Adrian, you spoke about this, and others, even large channels have noticed this as well, that due to YouTube shuffling around their algorithm without telling us what they're doing, in mid-August, roughly across the board for all channels, all the views went down by half. And you can imagine that would probably cause some panic. I guess what I'm asking is, have you noticed any other major changes this year? Has it, and I guess this would probably be for Adrian, for Clint, for David, and for Veronica, and anyone else, and Sean. All right, are we done pointing? And, in the last 9 months, since they made the most major changes, have you noticed anything, and have you had to adjust to it? Are subscribers that important anymore, for example? And this is open to anyone.
Okay, I'll go first. Okay. Since definitely the Jim, you alluded to this August thing, and something changed for my channel, and I've been talking a lot with David Lovett, Usagi Electric, one of my friends, and he was affected, and we definitely have this huge viewer drop-off. And normally I don't care personally too much about it. I don't do sponsorships, and I think a lot of folks who do rely on views to help, get the money from their sponsors. Like the sponsors use that as a metric. So for me, it's not as big of a deal, but honestly, it's disheartening because it's my full-time job, and I make videos knowing that it's not for everyone, but you still want people to enjoy it. So when you see every video you put out as like 10 out of 10 performer, which is this metric you see in the dashboard, it's demotivating. And yeah, but I try not to let it bother me, but I'm human, and it gets to you. And talking to David Lovett, who couldn't be here, we're just like, oh, what the hell are we doing wrong here? But YouTube's reluctance or not wanting to talk about any of what they're doing is really frustrating, because we're employees of them, all of us, right? We get 1099 tax forms. So it's like, okay, we're kind of work for you, and yet you don't even tell us like what you're changing here. So I think in the end, there's not much we can do as creators, unless you want to try to like chase this algorithm like Mr. Beast. I don't, obviously, because I make like niche repair videos. But in the end, I will continue on, and I'm glad for my supporters. So anyone who's a patron or a member or anyone, thank you, but thank you to everyone else as well. It makes it possible that I can do this, and I'm sure my colleagues here, also who rely on the income, for their living, it makes a huge difference to us. It takes the power away from the big company, puts it in the hands of the people. So thank you.
So, am I on? Okay. So, I've noticed for actually declining views really for the last 2-3 years. It seems to have gotten worse with things. And I noticed when I'm browsing YouTube as a viewer, I'm often being presented with a lot of AI-generated videos that you look at it and it says it has like 12 views on this video, and I'm like, why is this even being presented to me in my feed? Like, why aren't you presenting me something that is better quality? And I kind of feel like that's probably the same kind of thing that's stealing views away from a lot of us. But yeah, I've also been looking into doing sponsorships as well. But the problem is every sponsor that contacts me is one of two things. Either one, they insist on doing a 60-second integration, which I'm just not doing. I'm like, I'm not going to talk about your product for 60 seconds. I mean, I'll do it for, I'll mention it, maybe talk about it for 10 seconds if I can fit it in somewhere. But almost everybody I've talked to, they're like, no, well, we don't want that. And then the ones that do say they want that, they actually turn out to be scammers. Like they'll send me to some PDF that I got to download for an NDA, and it sends me off to an adobe.us.co. some other thing, and it's a malware or whatever that they're trying to get me on. So
Pro tip, open your email in Linux if you're a YouTuber. I'm serious.
Not if you fall for a phishing scam,
Yes.
though.
I made a strategic decision when I started the channel to not focus on sponsorships or ad revenue, but to focus exclusively on Patreon and Ko-fi. And a reason why I did that was that, one, I'll get enough ads. I could read you a sponsorship about something, and I don't fault other people for doing it, but it's like, I know your attention is already being sapped because you're on YouTube. So it's like, I know what you're dealing with, and I deal with it too. And it's like, if I add more to that, I don't like it. I don't want to do it. So I don't. And I made the decision to focus on Patreon and Ko-fi and community building that way. And I've actually seen, while the ad revenue is decreasing and the view count is going down, my Patreon and Ko-fi is going up. And I think that to a certain extent, the community that watches and supports us is kind of recognizing a quality shift and deciding to put their money where their mouth is. And as somebody who depends on that, thank you, because oh my goodness, that's everything.
Cool. I think one of the reasons they've had to implement these changes at YouTube is because the AI has become so easy now and automatable that, as David was saying, there's videos that they can just churn out at scale.
Right.
The last statistics I read was that 500 hours of YouTube are uploaded every minute. It's just going to get worse. So
you're welcome.
What do you guys feel about quality versus quantity? Do you feel it's more important to adhere to a regular upload schedule, or to upload it, as Carmack would say, when it's finished, and adhere to quality? Would anyone care to take that?
I'll go ahead.
I was just going to say, I think it's right in the middle. I think for me personally, giving myself a deadline really helps me create something and get it out there. But also, of course, the quality is the main reason you're doing it in the first place. Yeah, balanced.
No, and I'll chime in. As one of the regular releasers of videos, the deadline thing that Sean just mentioned makes a big difference for me. And to rely on it like we do as our sole income, I know unfortunately the game is you have to produce content. And David and Clint have changed up the schedule so they can talk a little bit more to it, what it was like going from a regular release schedule to less release. But I would assume it takes a hit on the bottom line, and it's your income, except for the patrons, of course, as I mentioned.
It seems like a gamble, but yeah, Clint, would you care to say that? Do you think that spending a little bit more time on quality is the better gamble?
Yeah, so when I actually started LGR back in 2008/9, it was actually a personal goal just to see if I could get something out every single week and stick to a schedule for a year. And that turned into 2 years. That turned into 5, 10, whatever. And I stuck to the weekly schedule up until pretty much last year when I kind of was forced to just not make videos for a while due to extenuating circumstances of things we don't want to talk about. Anyway, it was fine. I was like, oh, cool. I get a little bit of a break while I get to put my life back together after a big hurricane thing. And I was really kind of shocked that it actually didn't make much of a difference in terms of the overall people returning and continuing to just wait for whatever was done to be done. And due to it mostly was just Patreon and everything else evening out, I'm actually getting right around the same numbers in terms of viewership and response overall as I was when I was doing something every week. So now even if something is coming out every 2 weeks, every 3 weeks, as long as I'm spending time, which has been the unforeseen side effect of that, spending time picking things more carefully as opposed to just cranking something out there just to meet that artificial deadline. As much as it was helping me in the past, I don't think I'm the same person that I was that needed that kind of help personally to make myself make a thing. And that was my problem, was just committing to any one subject for long enough to pay attention to it long enough and get it done. But after kind of being forced to do that, it really worked out. And I don't know why. Maybe it was just the picking of different quality subjects. Maybe it's just people are curious after the storm, and this will all kind of even out and go back down eventually. But going back to this whole algorithmic change thing, I haven't really noticed much of a difference there either, except for this very last video that I did, which was kind of an unusual one. It was just me saying that I'm bald. So.
It's big news in some circles.
Yes, it is big news. I was like, hey, that's that. So I kind of expected that one to be poor in terms of performance. It's like, okay, who cares? But yeah, so I have yet to see what is going to change when I get back moved into my home and start doing things more regularly again, hopefully. It feels like a new world in every respect almost. Like I'm moving back to this and resetting my head, resetting the channel, doing all of these things, trying to get back. And now the algorithm is different than when I was doing things more weekly. So I really don't know where we're at.
I mean, I'll jump in real quick because I think I might be a YouTuber on the panel who releases the least frequently, maybe. I think I release one every about 3 months. I would love to get to the point where it could be my full-time thing. I'm gunning for it, maybe.
But just so the audience is aware, your last video, I made a floppy disk from scratch,
Right, yeah.
cracked 500,000 views. So for some people it works. I guess everyone has to find their own niche, but for you it seems to be working.
Yeah, thank you.
A video like that you made, which I saw, by the way, I mean, you can't make something like that every week. That's just not something that, unless you have a whole crew working for you like some YouTubers have, there's just no way to produce stuff like that, regularly. I mean, that's just the reality of it.
I got the question asked to say that if you did this full-time, how many videos do you think that you could actually release? And I said, well, if I keep doing projects like this, probably one every 2 months, right? Because it's not one project, it's 50 different projects for one video. But I think that for any budding YouTubers out there, right, if you're worried about release frequency, focus on quality. Because I think that I've been lucky enough to show that you can gain a really good following and subscribers and viewership if you just focus on quality.
Yeah, even if it's just a few a year. And, I don't want to get on a big rant here, but I watch some automotive channels and stuff, and they, you watch your YouTube ad when you start the thing, and then they got to tell you about their sponsor, and then they tell you just a little bit about what the video is about, and then you go to a mid-roll ad, and then eventually you get to about 30 seconds of actual content, and you realize I've been watching for 20 minutes just to get to this little 30-second thing, and then they put something like that out every few days. And I've actually talked to some of these YouTubers in person, and they're like, well, that's how we make money, because we have all these sponsors, and we have to make so many videos and whatever. And I could do that too if I wanted, and I probably would make more money, but ultimately those videos are forgettable. No one's going to be watching those in 5 or 10 years or 20 years. And that's I'm trying to play this long game where I want my content to be good enough that people are still going to be watching it, years from now. And so that's another just mindset that I guess you have to think about.
I turn down any idea that I have that pops into my head for a video. If I don't think people will watch it in 2 years, I shelve it. I try to only focus on, and that has more to do with topic picking and how you frame the video. So when I talk about Linux as an example, I try not to do distro reviews because it quickly becomes unhelpful, and then whatever algorithm we end up with isn't going to surface it. So I try to instead focus on something that's a little bit more practical, and it might include features about something that's new, but I try to worm it towards something that I think still works 2, 5, 10 years from now. I don't know if that's a quality versus quantity so much as a topic choice, but I think that gets into the quality versus quantity and what audiences I think tend to respond to more.
Yeah. Now, I want to,
I was just going to say, when it comes to the quality versus quantity debate, it is also possible to pick neither.
That's what we've done. We have chosen neither.
It's okay to do YouTube for fun.
And that's what we do.
100%.
it is okay to do YouTube for fun. I want to now turn this around on Jason Compton, seated directly next to me.
Yes.
So, Jason, you are one of the 3 co-hosts of This Week in Retro, which
Right.
is a weekly retro computing news program, I
Right.
would probably call it.
Yeah.
And the thing of quality versus quantity affects you in that you have to come out with a new episode every week. Has there been challenges doing that? What if it's a really light week in retro computing?
Yeah.
How
so,
do you deal with that?
Well, yes. So it was fun listening to all of this. Yeah, go ahead, take your time. Do something good. Don't do things that are ephemeral. I'm like, this is, don't take sponsorships. I'm like, we aren't brought to you this week by PCBWay. And by the way, this is an ephemeral news program. And by the way, don't look to me to build an audience because I was the 5th man in. My job was just not to lose a lot of viewers. But yes, if you're leery about quantity, don't name your program something that makes the brand promise to deliver quantity. We do take hiatus weeks every now and then, which is normal in television as well. Yeah, there's generally a hiatus week if our editor can't do it. So if Duncan is on vacation, we're gonna shelve that episode. I think that was the most recent hiatus week because we have the 3-man rotation now. It's a little easier to take a break, like when we have 2 guests on. Taylor and Amy are on today's episode. If you haven't seen yet,
We're bringing them down.
no, I don't think so. But yes, so. We are the easiest way, especially for an American audience, to summarize what This Week in Retro is. It's Computer Chronicles, but for YouTube. And instead of Stuart Chaffee and his team of producers that are curating the news and deciding what to put into their program, we are curating via our subreddit community. So the subreddit community submits news items, things that have been reported on elsewhere, videos that have been made, articles from blogs or time extension, or things that have been tweeted about, all sorts of different sources. And through the Reddit community, things are upvoted, downvoted, commented on, and went from that, we curate, okay, what are the 3 feature stories we're going to cover that week? What are things that are maybe news capsules, and what are things that either just don't fit our format, weren't particularly popular with the audience, aren't things that we can talk to. And to your point, if it's a little bit of a slow news week or things that may get a lot of votes are, we've already covered this topic, nothing new has happened, things like that. On today's episode, the 3rd feature story was something that I picked up from a different subreddit. I submitted. I said, hey, there's this Christopher Drum guy. I keep seeing his name show up. He's now launched his blog, so let's talk about that. So some of it we can put our thumb on the scale if need be to this is what we're going to talk about. Some of it too, I would say is a little bit of the art of This Week in Retro is sometimes a news item in itself might not be, wow, look at this amazing development in, somebody's just, strapped an Arduino to their brain and they've done this and this, or they've gone to the moon with it. Sometimes there's just a little bit of a seed, and our job is to be the storytellers around that. So, for example, early on in my run, somebody posted a picture of the Rally Vector, which was a British BMX bike that had a spot to put like a computer module in. And it wasn't news, nothing new had happened about it, but it turned into sort of waxing rhapsodic about what did it mean to have a computer strapped to your bike in the mid-'80s? What did it mean to be a British BMX kid? So that is a way also to turn what could be a slow news week into, it says This Week in Retro, we really better deliver a program today.
So you make it up. No, I'm kidding.
I mean, story seeds.
It sounds like, yeah, you use it as an opportunity to tell a story or educate.
Yeah,
something
exactly.
that hadn't been educated.
Exactly. Expand, share things among the three hosts. I mean, that is part of why people, tune in. Each of the feature stories, there's one of the hosts is kind of the primary reporter on it, but it is expected that, people are going to jump in with, this was my experience with magnetic tape storage. It's terrible, by the way. Don't listen to the Brits. It's terrible. Or whatever, and share that perspective.
Cool. I want to shift gears a little bit. We have a unique opportunity with both Clint and Matt on the panel to talk about things that get shattered into a million pieces and then possibly bringing them back together again. You may have seen Clint's video where he had a Halican laptop arrive in a very unfortunate condition. And it kind of reinforces, I wonder where this hobby is going. We've known for many years, even decades, that major shipping distribution centers have legally up to a 4-foot drop for all parcels. This is for real. However, during COVID, it started to come to light that delivery truck drivers were standing on packages to reach the packages at the top. You can put a whole bunch of pool noodles in your package. You can use Instapack foam. You can do anything. But if a 200-pound guy is standing on your monitor, it's going to go crunch. Should we start taking manual possession of anything made out of plastic and glass at this point? And this is open to the whole panel. Like, is it becoming too risky to ship vintage computing equipment?
Yes. Don't do it, it will break.
Have you received some terrible things?
Yeah, well, as you know, I'm a little bit of a Mac connoisseur.
What?
Like an iMac G3. Even that, you think, oh, it looks fine, but the internal bezel breaks, if you touch it wrong. So much so that Mac Effects, who's here, actually made a replacement inner bezel, which is pretty amazing. But yeah, I don't think you can ship like any old plastic these days. It's a huge gamble. Yeah.
I feel one of the worst things is that a lot of the people selling stuff buy it out like at an estate sale or whatever, throw a sheet of bubble wrap in there, it's good enough, and then they send it. I mean, a lot of it seems to be, I don't know in Clint's case with that computer, but I've gotten a lot of stuff from overseas from viewers, but they do a good job with packing it. I've been lucky to not have any broken stuff.
That's actually a really important variable. How many, and forgive me interrupting Clint, but have you told the sellers how to ship them, and has that mattered?
Yeah, if it is something international, I've right around the same time as the Halican, I actually ordered a huge, 1980s computer from Japan, and it weighed even more than the Halican. It was larger. I want to say it looked even more brittle, but it arrived in perfect shape. It was just pristine packaging. The Halican was a few states over, and it showed up as a pile of broken Dorito chips, and that was all that was left. It was shattered in the most absurd way I've ever seen. And Matt can attest to it. It's just a disturbing, but yet increasingly common trend. And I really don't even know what the pattern is yet. We're maybe going to try to figure out a little bit of that. But
yeah, it's interesting. I think it doesn't matter what the plastic is made out of. It matters what it's made out of plus the environment that it's kept in, right? I think is the most widely agreed upon thing. And hopefully we're going to try to get to a little bit more information from that in the next video as a little bit of a tease. But what I would say is that it's not necessarily a shipping issue. It's just a common issue, period, because you could have something stored in your attic or your garage or things like that you pick it up and it could deteriorate, right? And so I think that for the question for me is, should you ship something that is valuable? It's not a straight no, because sometimes you want to take that chance because it's something that's so valuable and you kind of want to do that, and that thing, if you went and picked it up, it might crumble on the car ride home, and so shipping is a huge issue. People do not understand how to pack things sometimes, but sometimes, and I think it was the case with your seller, it was actually packed decently, right?
Decently. Unfortunately, they also decided to pack it in its original protective little bag, which was, in theory, a decent idea, but one of the things that goes into that bag was the huge power supply that was sat on top, which was interesting because it was sat on top of the monitor, and the monitor part held together perfectly fine. But I guess the rest of the pressure of everything being tightly packed in there made this sort of just crunching situation, and the whole thing was just, basically nothing by the end. And I really don't think that could have been avoided with that system, because like you touch it and it really fell apart in your hands, giving it no pressure whatsoever. That's the worst one I've seen. The second worst one I've seen was actually, and this is interesting, maybe anecdotal, but somebody had given me or found a compact Presario, one of those all-in-one desktops. I love those things, a 425. And they're like, oh yeah, it had been retrobrighted and all this stuff, and they shipped it, and it arrived in 1,000 pieces. And yet, my regular one that hasn't been retrobrighted has still extremely strong plastic. And I don't know if there's any correlation there, but that one had very much gone through a bleaching process, and I don't know if that made it worse, but it certainly didn't arrive intact at all.
I think one of my favorite comments on that video was somebody said that it looks like the power supply got in a cage match with the rest of the laptop. It was, if you haven't seen it, you really should, because it is horrifying and sad, but hopefully we're gonna be able to turn it around. And I think where kind of I love to come into this is my passion is preserving information, right? And information could be scanning manuals, right? Like copying disks, but it can also be like reconstructing and 3D modeling a case so that maybe someone can 3D print it at home, or maybe down the line when manufacturing costs come down and things like that, like the things that Mac Effects do. They do incredible work, but maybe that there's a way that they can start from a model, right, that is free and open source and anybody can use it, right? And so I think preserving that kind of information is also a way to preserve existing machines, because eventually they are going to break down.
3D scanning.
Oh, sorry, go ahead.
3D scanning is getting a lot cheaper now and a lot more accurate. So it's definitely getting, and 3D printers are getting a lot better. So I could see a point where we can actually start printing stuff that doesn't really exist anymore or only exists in our imagination, and we can actually make a solid object.
Yeah.
Drop the case and the plastic shattered. Camera was rolling, so it doesn't matter. The whole thing was busted, but subscribers can be trusted 'cause it's content.
I like that song.
Thank you. Good night, everyone. No, I definitely hear you. By saving the case, you're preserving that product's design language. And yeah, I totally hear you there. Is there a limit to what we can fix, to what we can repair through 3D printing, through milling, CNC machines? I mean, how many pieces does it have to be?
I don't know. Matt seems to make discs, so I mean, that's like.
Do you think there's a limit, or do you think we can achieve anything with enough elbow grease?
I don't think there's a limit to be able to preserve the information, right? To be able to preserve an exact model of something, but like, there's definitely going to be a limitation in capabilities of how you can manifest it through 3D printing or CNC machining or things like that too. But, right, like it's getting better and better, right? And like it's incredible the detail and the speed of 3D printers at home these days, right? And how people can just load up a model and set it to print and it's good to go, rather than tinkering with it for hours and hours and hours.
Well, and then you get into the retro computer of Theseus.
Yes, I was gonna say.
I knew someone was gonna say it. I'm gonna get there before Veronica does. At what point is it no longer a retro, or is it always? Because the spirit.
I think the definition of the thing actually moves, and like I said this last year. I make a distinction between vintage and retro, where vintage is the thing that the museum should have. Retro is the thing that we enjoy, that themes it all together. Like my 5-year-old Super Nintendo MIDI cartridge is not vintage, it's retro. But 25 years from now, it will be vintage. And if 5 years is the vintage I'm going for, it's vintage now. Like, vintage is kind of a flexible term that I think, like, I appreciate it, and it shows what the thing is. But like, ultimately, I keep going back to Amiga and how there's so much great software being written for the Amiga right now. Like, oh my goodness. And most of the time I'm seeing this stuff being played on a Mister. And that's great. That's fine. And for an entire generation of users, the definition of what Amiga is that thing and not the other thing. And who am I to say you're wrong? You know, like ultimately at the end of the day, I just want people enjoying the thing. And if that's how we're enjoying it.
Well, there's also another thing to consider, and this actually is more obvious at the arcade than it is probably with vintage computers, but I think the same applies. For those who are familiar with the philosophical idea of the ship of Theseus, well, we have some arcade machines at the arcade that I would call the arcade machine of Theseus because it's been repaired and replaced so many times over 40 years, it's probably not even have any of the same parts that it had when it was first built, even though it still looks brand new. So there's just something to think about.
I think that's a good point, because I think people collect things, people experience things for different reasons, right? So like if you had a computer that you grew up with, you're probably going to want that computer. But if you want to experience things that other people experienced in a way, there's different ways to do that, right?
Do you know how many times I've built a brand new PC from parts, like every part's new? Once. The computer I built in like early 2000s. I've just been upgrading it ever since. To me, it's the same computer. It didn't stop being that same computer. And I find that to be kind of an interesting analog here. Like, we want to preserve, but ultimately the reason we want to preserve is for enjoyment. And like, if I'm still enjoying it, like to me, it feels like the same computer, even if literally nothing of it is the same thing. Now that's different from preservation from the physical hardware perspective. And especially if your goal is preserving hardware, yeah, like ruining it and throwing the case away or dremeling out the case to put a GoTech in. Yeah, you might be like making it not the thing you were intending on it, but ultimately it's your computer. You know, just enjoy it.
It's a sliding scale. Enjoy the hobby any way you want.
You can't
all right, we'll
retro
take some
wrong.
applause for that. Sure, yeah. No gatekeeping here. I think we're about ready to start. I have one more thing I'd like to ask, but I think we're ready to start taking questions from the audience. If anyone would like to ask one, you can start lining up here in the center aisle behind our Q&A mic. I want to just kind of go off into left field a little bit and ask, we all produce content on YouTube. What kinds of content do you like to watch on YouTube?
Oh, I watch a man mow the grass.
I have watched that too.
I can just go into my happy place watching that man edge.
Is that power washing adjacent too?
He has that channel as well.
Yeah, there's a guy in Detroit who does the lawn care for free for people. I've watched him a bunch. Yeah, it's pretty amazing.
So lawn care.
Yeah. Cow hoof trimming.
Come on.
Rabbit hole. He knows. If you know, you know.
Car stuff. Vice Grip Garage.
Yeah, me too. I'm with Sean. I watch a bunch of car stuff as well.
I love to watch anybody who is really passionate about what they do.
Yes.
It could be
100%.
art restoration, it could be watchmaking, it could be whatever, but anybody who just details, they're passionate, they just love to do it, and it comes through in the video, I could watch it all day long.
I like the 2 or 3 hour like video dive-ins on like Mario 64 and like decompiling it and everything. I can like really, I love that. I don't know.
Yeah, I love the speed running stuff as well. Yeah.
Harp
Insult.
YouTube. No, yeah. Oh, that's the thing. No, I love music YouTube in general, like especially music gear YouTube. But like, there's a harp channel that I really like called Emily Hopkins.
Both super fans.
Yeah, Sean and I are both super fans.
Are y'all musicians yourselves?
Oh yes, we're in a band.
Well, do tell us.
Yes, we're in a band called the Stop Bits. We'll be playing 10:30 this room. Be there. Yeah, 10:30.
Do tell.
I'm not actually a musician. I just
Oh,
stand up
Jim,
here.
are you still here?
Oh yeah.
We're taking over.
All right. Well,
Oh,
let's,
Mario 64 stuff.
That's right. All right. Well, let's start taking questions. Just feel free to ask. And when you ask your question, please, if it's directed at a single person, say so. If it's to the whole panel, say so.
It's not directed towards anybody, just towards the group. But we all enjoy things from 25 years from ago in the past and talking about it and thinking about it. But in 25 years, is anybody going to be thinking about the stuff they're making today? And is there another group of people that's going to come to talk about the stuff that's coming today? I don't find anything interesting today.
I bet there has to be, right? Because, like all those years ago, we were chucking this stuff out and like selling it for $5 at a yard. I heard somebody sold an Apple Lisa for $5 once. So, I'm sure there's people who are going to have nostalgia at least.
I think that's a human condition. That's like a rolling thing. So whenever you were born.
I think most of what exists today is more of software and less about what it runs on. Yeah. So I think people will be nostalgic for things that came out today, whether they be movies, TV shows, or Angry Birds or whatever.
You may be right, but I don't know. I imagine in 25 years there's going to be some sort of retro phone conference, and people are going to be like, oh, that's the one. That was from 2025. Oh my God. Does it work? Does that battery work?
I think the problem with what we're doing right now versus what we did back then is what we did back then, there were physical copies that you actually had and can still use today. Right now, so much of this is dependent on a cloud service or some app provider, and you're kind of at their good graces. And that's the part that I do worry about with like the hobby as it evolves, is we're going to get to a point where, we just plead that Nintendo makes Virtual Console Switch 3 edition in 30 years so I can play Mario Kart World 4 on the thing. Like that, we're kind of dependent on them, whereas right now we're dependent on us. And I think that thing changes the dynamic of this as we go.
I saw this video, Veronica. It was a person who was spending a lot of time archiving iOS games from old iPod Shuffle, whatever the iOS iPods, because so many of those games have been delisted. Yep. And they're lost, and you had to break this encryption and all this work just to get these off because they're not archived. Apple just deletes them. The developers don't care, and that's the nostalgia I think people grew up with. An iPod, and they're like, I want to play that game again. Peggle or whatever.
I worry the kids who grow up like 30, 40, 50 years from now, when they're thinking back on the stuff that they played and that they enjoyed, they're not going to have the same experience we have where we can actually like fire up an emulator and do the thing.
Right.
Somebody's got to do that work now to get that stuff off of here. So that way in 5, 10, 15, 20, 30 years, that stuff's available to people. And unfortunately, we don't make that easy and we don't make that legal. And I think both of those things need to change.
And the thing is, what it'll be, it may be something that would surprise you. If 25 years ago at the 2000 SRAP Expo, one of the things that kind of flowed into making this show, if you told me 25 years ago at that show, in 25 years there's going to be people who are nostalgic for mainstream P2 and P3 machines, compact Presario all-in-ones, I don't know if I would have said I don't believe you, but I would have been highly skeptical. And yet those are areas of very serious nostalgia for a lot of people. So I agree. I think a lot of it's going to be steeped in what the mobile culture of today is, what wearables are today, things like that. And it may be more tricky to preserve and recreate than things of 25 years ago. But there will be a way, and I think that's where a lot of it will come from. Thank you, Jim.
Hey, so this is just in general. As a subscriber to a lot of you guys on stage, I'm sure I will be subscribing to many more of you. But in general, I'd just like to say thank you because I feel like there's a lot of garbage and stuff on YouTube, and you guys all put in like a lot of intelligent content and just like a lot of really good educational content. And I know you guys are like entertainers first and foremost, but you're also historians and you're educators. And it's just really nice to see a lot of the technology and stuff that I grew up with as a kid. And, how you guys can kind of, I think a lot of people are going to be able to, be able to connect with that, to a lot of the technologies and stuff that I grew up with. And I'd just like to say thank you.
Testing. All right, this is Angel Mosquita, Angel Gray. So I know recently Perifractic bought the Commodore brand.
Hadn't heard.
Yeah. And so And so for anyone, I want to know, how do you all feel, now that, Commodore has essentially been revived, and also similar to how, Commodore bought Amiga in the 80s, say Perry Fractal and his new Commodore were to, say, reach out to David, say, hey, we want to buy your Commander X16, make an official new Commodore brand, and bring you and the team into, would you say yes, even if he offer you a lot of money, or no?
I guess I should probably be the first one to answer that since you brought up the... So actually, he did approach me about the Commander, not to buy it, but he wanted to offer us to use the Commodore logo. And we actually turned it down, not because we have any disagreement with anything that he's doing, but from our perspective, for example, I still have an entire garage, or actually it's my mom's garage, full of like probably $20,000 to $30,000 worth of just Commander keyboards, for example. They're already labeled Commander X16. I'm like, I can't just change the logo on these things, right? So, and that's just one example, but I gave him a whole bunch. I mean, like, I'm just like, it would be economically unfeasible for us to change the name at this point. So we declined. But I'm all, like I told him, I very wished him the best of luck. And, I as far as I'm concerned, whatever your opinion of Perifractic is or is not, I don't think he could make the situation any worse than it was before. Right. So I think it's got to be an improvement.
I'd like to kind of flip this around a little bit. Can I get a show of hands of people who, one, know about the Commodore 64 Ultimate and like it and would like to purchase it? Show of hands. Okay, so no, that's a lot of hands, which is good. But please keep your hands up. Now, how many of you would buy it anyway if it didn't have the official Commodore logo? Pretty much the same.
I'm just excited that people are excited. That ultimately for me is kind of the point. And folks are getting really pumped about this. And like it's whatever you feel about Perifractic and what he's doing over there, I'm glad he did that, because it's definitely reviving some excitement and some razzmatazz. What do the kids say? Riz. Yes. It's definitely doing a thing, and I love that. That part is really exciting. Now, I would buy the thing because I need another FPGA thing. Maybe not. I don't know. It depends on what it looks like. But part of that is that I just have a stack of Commodore 64s and they work. So why would I replace it? But if I wasn't in that boat, yeah, that's looking really good. And it's hard to argue with it.
I think it's Commodore's 64.
Commodore's 64.
Yeah. And I've gone on record on This Week in Retro talking about the acquisition and as it's unfolded. So I would say that what I think is, if we're going to use the word good, what I think is good is that they have announced a product, they have put prices on it, they have taken orders, and now we can judge them by terrific. Are you shipping on time? Are you delivering what you promised? Did this all come together? I think that is good. I am rather less interested in, we did the show of hands over, do you want this machine? Do you care about the branding? I am personally a lot less interested in the future we were promised trademark stuff. I'm a lot less interested in the wresting from the parallel universe that we all fell into. Those things do not interest me. They do not appeal to me. I do not actually think that those have made things better from the standpoint of are things. But I do actually think that having the parallel universe conversation is not a better thing. Insofar as that they've hit the ground with a product that they're taking money for, and we can judge them on what they ship, I think that's good.
This is a general question. Can you guys talk about the development of your demographics of viewers over the years? And then are there any sort of, as data accumulation becomes more and more fraught, are there any ethical dilemmas about gathering demographic data from your viewers, subscribers, Patreon members, whatever?
Is this a test? Is it like if we give you any demographic info, then we've breached the ethics of the thing?
Then you'll have red dots suddenly appear. Pip, 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 pip.
I don't love how much data YouTube collects. I think if you watch my channel, you kind of know what I'm about on this. I heartily encourage people to get around that in every way they can. And if that means I get less ad revenue, cool. Like I said, I prioritized Patreon and Ko-fi a long time ago for a reason. But I do wish YouTube offered, especially for premium subscribers, some kind of way to opt out of a lot of that because we're paying them. It's one thing for the ad revenue and stuff, but I never see an ad on YouTube because I paid the money to do the premium thing. And part of that is just because of speed, and it makes it easier on my TV and whatever. I wish we could then say, I would like to uncheck a box and you don't care about my demographics anymore. I'm just a blank box to you. That I wish they would do. They don't do it, and I hold them to task for it.
Yeah, I mean,
No, absolutely not. They're here for you.
I was gonna add that YouTube obviously is a Google company and Google is an ad company, and they are driven by that. So I do agree with Veronica on that. I'm a premium subscriber as well, but I feel that Google will never give up the reins with the demographic stuff. And as a content creator, you look at your studio and it like overwhelms you with the amount of information. I don't personally spend much time looking at that. It's not going to change. I make videos about old computers. I mean, I don't know what.
I like looking at the little map because I'll look at it and be like,
Oh yeah, the country one is
huh,
cool.
Yeah, the map is
3
cute.
people in Switzerland watched my video.
Like Germany, I think is my number 3 country, for instance, and that's cool. Yeah.
To the bigger YouTubers, do y'all actually use the demographics or
No.
Okay.
Oh no.
I haven't looked at them in years.
The
The only thing I
country-
can tell you is it's like 98% male watches my
Yeah,
channel.
same here.
Yeah, that's crappy.
But a lot of that is assumed too, and so like I think some of the demographic stuff, like we know, there's been stories in the news about how the demographics are being guessed at by YouTube, and it's like, so I don't even know how valid is this really ultimately. Like, you're guessing, I'm guessing about you. Am I going to make decisions based on like several layers worth of guesses? No, I'm just going to do what I want.
Yeah, our demographic is look to your left and look to your right. Behold the demographic.
Would you like to ask a question?
Okay, this is a general question and kind of like a future outlook for the entire panel. What do you think the Y2K38 problem would affect Unix?
Will the Y? Okay, so
Veronica.
just to repeat, the
epoch thing.
Y2038 problem is a problem where the 32-bit unsigned integer that Unix uses for a date will roll over, and it could cause mass destruction, just like Y2K did. I can quickly answer that, although I think Veronica can too. Many distributions have already switched over to a 64-bit value for that date. So there should not be any, by the time we get there shouldn't be a problem.
I guess your routers are going to break, though?
Yeah, well, your very, very old router. I think where I do worry about it a little bit, and only in a very minor way, is for our hobby and stuff that, like I think about stuff that isn't ever going to get patched. And that could have some, we're not talking catastrophic issues, but like we're talking mild inconveniences that could impact us. As far as the stuff that's keeping the lights on and things, they fixed that a long time ago. And, I think we learned some valuable lessons from Y2K and how we talk about it, where especially in the culture, like there's a reason you haven't heard of this problem, and it's because I think that the nerds kind of figured out if we scare people, they're just going to think there was no issue. So we need to talk about it in a different way. It's, that classic, if you do the preventative maintenance, you're not necessarily going to ever care that somebody's doing the preventative maintenance. So I think that like IT companies have gotten real creative about that and how they're fixing it.
Yeah, and I think when it comes to the keeping the lights on stuff, does it matter? Like my retro computers don't have batteries in most of them because I don't care that the clock is set to 1980. I'm not doing work on them. I'm playing games.
Yeah.
There's actually a precedent for this. The Olivetti M24 was a PC clone made in 1984, and it only had a 3-bit value for its real-time clock date.
Oh, sure.
So when it became January 1992, it was 1984 all over again. And back then, hobbyists wrote their own alternate clock drivers and helper programs to fix it. So I think the hobbyists will find a way out of that predicament.
Absolutely.
So thank you for the question.
You're welcome.
Hi there. So I run the computer museum at System Source. And some of you who watch Usagi, we lent him our Bendix G15.
Thank you for doing that. It's a
been
wonderful
amazed.
resource.
I've just been amazed. It's hard to advertise a computer museum, as you might expect. And like 25% of our visitors, how'd you hear about us? And it's you guys as a group. And people will come, they'll actually want to see this, or this, because they've watched you. So a big thank you.
Well,
That's cool.
Welcome.
Thank you.
Maybe a bit of an odd question. You guys are all very generous with your time interacting with your viewers in the community, whether it be on YouTube, social media, or at conventions like this, where we get the chance to ask you questions. Have you ever wanted to ask your viewers a particular question? And have you ever not done it because you were afraid of the answer?
Well, but Veronica, you do like surveys. I mean, so sometimes we do. Like you.
I make a habit of doing like surveys. So like I use between YouTube. You know, YouTube has a polling question. One of the problems that I have with this is it only shows up on mobile. So you're actually self-selecting your user based on that, and I don't love that. But I ask a lot of questions that are really specific to future content, if that makes sense. Generally, the question that I'm not really afraid to ask questions. I'm a little afraid to ask what you think, if that makes sense. Like, it's oh, give me your honest opinion. You know, sometimes, especially if a video bombs, I don't want the honest opinion, you know, like, because you got to remember, we get a lot of comments. And sometimes the honest opinion is going to come out regardless.
I do surveys. I do polls. Not a ton, and I wouldn't say that like I'm definitely like if it's something that I'm invested in, like I get over myself to ask the question, but I am concerned about the response, right? So, for example, I think one of the most controversial things I think a YouTuber can do is put in music into their videos. And because everybody has an opinion, and it's always a different opinion about the style, about the loudness, about all of that kind of stuff.
Yes, can confirm.
And like I love to put music in my videos, and I have a very, I don't know, maybe a specific style that, you know, I like to put in my videos. And so I've asked the question. Now, luckily, the majority of the responses were, I don't care, or like, you just do what you want to do, which is, it's so cool to hear a response like that from the community that I'm doing the content for, right? I've always said that if I wasn't doing YouTube, I would still be doing these projects, but the only reason I do YouTube is for you guys, right? It's for the community. And so it was really good to hear that, but no, I mean, I was worried that the response is going to be like, it's all terrible, pack it in.
I mean, but the reality is we can't please everyone. So
Totally.
You put a poll out there, I don't know, what are you going to do? You just got to keep doing what you're going to do.
Yep.
I just have a quick question for like just generally everyone. What is the most prized possession of like retro tech you have?
I'll go first. It's the second most valuable thing I own after my house. It's a real Commodore 65. I keep it in a bank because it's a dumb thing to keep in my house.
Okay, do you remember when Commodore... You don't remember. Okay, back in the day...
I've watched a lot of videos.
Once upon a time, Commodore was running a sale where if you brought in an old computer, you would get $50 off a Commodore 64. Now, all of those old computers that people brought in wound up at Commodore. And the engineers at Commodore, they were like in a bin and they could, go through the bin. Well, Bill Hurd grabbed out of that bin a Kim 1. Someone traded in a Kim 1 to get a Commodore 64. And he was kind enough to give that to us a couple of years ago. And so that would be my answer.
And if you want to see it, it's on This Week in Retro.
It is on This Week in Retro. YouTube.com/This Week in Retro.
I have a goofy one. It's retro and it's vintage because it's from when I was a kid. Have you ever heard of the Etch-a-Sketch Animator? Anybody remember that one? Like, okay, it's this little handheld drawing, like pixel drawing thing, and you just kind of you indicate like this pixel is going to be black, this pixel is going to be white, this pixel is going to be black, this pixel is going to be white, and then you can go to the next frame. This pixel is going to be black, this pixel is going to be white, this pixel. I swear to you, that is where Veronica Explains comes from, because I figured out I can make this move. And when I figured out I can make this move, it was real quick to, I can make computers move by learning some code. And then it really quickly turned into, I can make video, I can make audio, I can do, it launched me in media. And it was just some silly gift that my parents got me. And I still have it. I still have the original one. It's sitting on my desk behind me when I'm working. And every now and again, I bust it out and I just draw something on it just for fun.
I'll go have two. And the first is this Micron PC, a Pentium, whatever, and it was the first retro video I ever made on my channel. So it kind of holds a special place in my heart. It's a very commodity computer, but it was an old lady, and she had it since it was brand new. It was all in box, never really used. And my friend called me up, and he's like, hey, there's this computer on Craigslist. You should go pick it up. So I went and got it, and those videos are still on the channel. They're super cringy, because I didn't know what I was doing. I was literally just like, I'm going to record this. But it holds a special place because it kind of was the beginning, but not really popular. But then my field found Commodore 64, which I have on my table, was so pivotal to my channel. I got, I don't know, the video is like 700-something thousand views at this point, but it really brought in the huge amount of subscribers that made it, kind of put me on the map. And I have that computer here, and it's been 6 years, still works after being rescued. And it's another Commodore 64. I have a lot of them, but something about that machine, I could give away the other ones and, whatever. But this one I love because it's so monumental for my career, which I do full time now, which obviously if I hadn't found that computer, those are the little things that happen in your life that can make pivotal changes. And that one I think is my little pivotal thing.
For me, it's my Apple Lisa for two reasons. One, because I never thought I would actually have one to tinker with and restore and just be able to use, and the software is so cool to use, to make art and stuff and print it out. So I never thought I'd be able to do that. But two, I got it actually because of VCF Midwest and some friends that I've made here that I would have made without having done the YouTube stuff, who really helped coordinate me being able to get it and trade for it. I didn't actually buy it; I traded for it. So it actually has a kind of a sentimental value to it too now.
So I have a number of things that I would put very high on the list. I have a Commodore Max and a Commodore 116, and I have a Chem 1. But honestly, the thing that I think is probably the coolest thing to show off to people, like when they come over and whatnot, is my Apple 1. And for those that don't know, it's a replica that I built, but it looks exactly like an Apple 1. In fact, for those that don't know, it was in one of Clint's videos. Where he was scrounging through an old warehouse full of a bunch of old boards, and we secretly stuck it in there, and he was just like, yeah, there's an old board, oh, there's another old piece of junk or whatever. When we skimmed through the comments, tried to find anybody going, oh my gosh, there's an app. And there were how many? Dozens of people that were telling him, go back, you got to go get that Apple 1.
It almost caught me, but I was like, no, I knew there was some trickery happening here.
I mean, one thing that definitely comes to mind is from also Computer Reset, the Ken Williams Super Junior, which was one of Ken Williams, the co-founder of Sierra Online, one of his debug computers that actually came from Sierra Online. They had sent it into Computer Reset for repair. It had a bunch of debug files and programs from Sierra, and when you start it up, it says, welcome to Ken Williams Super Junior, and had a bunch of codename Iceman files and things on that, and the original repair list from Sierra to get the hard disk fixed, and they never did. It just sat there for decades until we found it, and so had to bring it home and get that thing archived.
My next cube. I like my next cube.
Yeah,
Mackie, of course.
He's hurt.
Mackie's not a possession, though.
No, he's an entity. So
sad eyes right now.
Oh, and Mackie.
I'm kind of curious about the whole cottage industry of content creation, and how this is for whoever is interested in answering, how difficult? How much preparation did it take for you to get to the point where you spun up your channel, like, from scripting to, editing, putting it out? Like, did you do a bunch of practice videos and then discard them and say, until you got to one, it's like, okay, this is good enough to release, or like, just wondering
No.
about that kind of thing.
Nope. I'll bet some wish they had.
You just start.
You just start posting
Press record.
stuff.
And you go and you put it up. No, we are the least of production value.
No, I don't know. I'm right there with you, both.
Well, we'll see. We'll have a contest. We'll have a steel cage death match later about who's
We'll take a
who has
poll.
less production
Yes.
value. We'll do a
Yeah.
poll.
Oh,
Pretty low down.
We'll ask
It
the
might be a good idea to do a poll, actually.
We
Like,
Googled best camera for YouTube
Oh, boy.
and purchased it.
and still use it. You can tell by watching our videos. But so the spectrum of the amount of effort you can put in. I mean, I know there's people here who do hours and hours and scripts and edit, but you can also just grab a camera and put something up there and do it. So you can do any of what you want. And I think I've heard it from millions of people over and over. It's like, just get started. Don't put it off.
Yeah.
Just do it and get out there. And then you'll have cringy videos to watch later.
Just out of curiosity, who here on the panel did a year or more of prep before making their first video?
Veronica did.
Anybody? I did 5 years of prep. Like
That's what I mean.
really like learning videography, like trying to get better at using the camera, trying to get the equipment, trying to test the equipment, but like I was working a full-time job. And so like this was really hobby level stuff. Who here did 6 months of prep?
And you're a
before
musician.
starting? I am a musician.
We're in a band.
Yeah, okay. I was going to say, you and I seem like we're...
You took acting lessons.
Well, I do now for fun and for personal development. But
Yeah.
to the point, I did the exact opposite of what you did. My first video, I took my phone, I taped it to a stand, and I put a USB microphone in there, and then I just started talking. And
Same.
It was pretty bad, but it was a start.
And that's still more effort than we.
I used my phone for the first video, and I didn't even talk at all. There's just a little bit of music behind it. It was just me kind of focused. I barely edited it, and I still love that video. Like, I still go back and look. And like I'm somebody who, like, part of like the cinematography is very interesting to me, and so I've chosen to also kind of go down that route. But like, I don't like all I do is I look at my video that I've done in the past, right? And then I'm like, you know what? Here's 2 things that I'm going to change or make different for my next one, and that's it. Just pick 2 different things. Don't be hard on yourself, right? But just start shooting.
You don't use your phone anymore?
No, not anymore.
No, I did the other way around. I started with the fancy camcorder, and now I use my phone because it's better quality than the camcorder.
Yeah, that's true.
And I think because I'm here, because I'm on This Week in Retro, which is it's a collaborative show that was in no way my idea. I'm the 5th man in as a host. The 2 original hosts aren't with the show anymore. The original producer is still there. So it's a little bit different in that I was joining a format that already existed. So you could say
company, right?
Sorry.
It's a company.
Or at least an established, we'll call it a collective. But I guess by the point I'm trying to make here is, although yes, I mean the solo proprietor or pair or whatever, like obviously is a predominant model, but it is not necessarily the only one. And I don't think I personally would have done my own channel because I would have done it by now. I think. And my on-ramp was actually doing a podcast. I also do the Retro Adventures podcast, which was also not my idea. But that's also the story of Amiga Report, which was, as I said in there on the announcements, if you're listening, I was big in the 90s. Amiga Report was the online magazine that I, for lack of a better term, made famous, but I was the 3rd person to be its editor-in-chief. Sometimes it's okay to work your way into something that already exists. In fact, I would argue that for most of media ever, that's how it is. You don't have to invent the evening news to be a newscaster. You find a station that needs you. And for some people, that's the on-ramp rather than I'm going to establish my own brand and have a life partner, Mac, or whatever that story is. It's okay if that's not your story. You can still also be part of the broader 21st century media sharing infrastructure.
Maybe the lesson here is maybe start with a group of friends instead of just by yourself.
With podcasting, they usually say record a bunch of stuff, and you're probably going to throw it away before you actually release something. But it's different with YouTube, I guess, for a lot of people.
Can be, it can't be. You do what you need to do.
I
Thank
spent.
you very much.
Yeah. No, it's okay.
So I have two quick and burning questions. First, for Clint, and feel free to call for help. In both your SimCity 2000 retrospective and your SimCity 3000 retrospective, you say that the series that is the title of the video is the best one. Which SimCity is the SimCity to rule them all? And don't worry, the hardest question actually goes to Adrian. How does Deoxit work?
Clint goes first.
SimCity 2000 is the personal favorite, just because that was the one that I obsessed over and have the crazy connection and story with the parents and grandparents pulling a fast one on me and all that. 3000 is the one that I would say is just top tier for me. Like, it's the perfect mix of the classic and the newer, whereas 4 went in some other directions in some ways I didn't necessarily like. 2000 is a little bit more simpler, but 3000 added just enough complexity and artwork, and the music and everything else just hits perfectly for me. So.
And as for Deoxit, one word: science. That's what makes it work. Yes. Science makes the world go around at this point, and it's so important to learn science and participate in science, especially for young people. So whoever chemical engineers figured out this stuff, it's quite magical, but it's not magic, it's science.
I'll take it.
My question's for the group. A perennial topic of these panels is anxiety about YouTube, and is it going to continue to be viable and things like that. So my question is, and this is pie in the sky, do you think that a vintage tech or vintage computing over-the-top service a la like Dropout or Nebula, but for vintage tech, could ever be viable, or is there not enough market for that?
I mean, it's funny. I'll go with this whole view apocalypse crap that Jim talked about earlier. I've thought about Nebula and some of the float plane alternatives as a way to get away from the YouTube model. It's hard. It's kind of what Clint was alluding to. You get stuck in a rut when you're making content, and it's hard to change. Feels like moving an iceberg in a way. So I've thought about some of those other platforms, but you worry well, my patrons are over here, and what about them? I'm going to have to make them switch and stuff like that, and I don't know how to make that happen. So
personally, I'll just go where the audience is. I don't really care.
Yeah, people are asking, hey, why don't you be on Nebula? Then okay, I'll look into
There's
that.
an audience there if they had a great comment section, if they had a good way to interact and get that kind of feedback that I like. But between Patreon and YouTube, I'm still okay with that, despite all of its numerous growing issues.
I don't just do vintage tech, but I also do a little bit of Linux stuff. And what I found was putting the Linux stuff and the vintage tech stuff too on what's called PeerTube, which is, so if you don't know, Mastodon is to Twitter, PeerTube is to YouTube, in that you can host it yourself and you can control what videos go on it, and it's kind of your own thing, but it's definitely, the discoverability is not quite there. It's federated. You got to know certain system administrative stuff, which I don't necessarily recommend for everybody, but it has actually been a really big boon to the channel in that I am reaching especially patrons and monthly sustainers that don't want to use YouTube. And so that's actually helped me funnel, resources for myself and this thing. And when I think about something like float plane, you mentioned as an example, I think if there's users there, if there's people there, I think it makes sense to maybe jump into that. Something that's vintage specific, it would really depend on you. It doesn't depend on us. It has to do with consumer behavior more so than it ever has to do with what we want to do. We can't tell you where to be. That's ultimately what you all are going to do. And I think for each of us, that's an individual choice, you and us.
It's a little bit of a chicken and an egg problem.
Yeah. It's really hard to beat free though, and YouTube is free.
Yes.
So.
So question for the group. I was wondering if there's any particular piece of computer equipment that you regret getting rid of.
Ooh.
Yes, me, Toshiba T2000 286. It was my first real computer. I bought it when I was in middle school at a flea market, and then I sold it also as a teenager, stupidly. And I've been looking for it ever since, and apparently the 286 version is like impossible to find. The 386 version is everywhere, but I don't want that one. I want the 286.
Which model are you looking at for?
T2000 Toshiba.
2000. I think I have a 3000 something.
Does anybody remember the all black, like the Darth Vader Aptiva with the thing in the, like you had the monitor and then the thing in the middle, and it flipped up and there was the CD drive and the floppy drive, and that's where the power button was, and it had an umbilical cord that led to the tower. So it looked like, it kind of looked like an all-in-one, but it wasn't. There was a tower somewhere else. I had that as a kid. It was my computer that like the family had. It was the Windows 95 version. It was really cool. And we let my little brother try to build a sleeper build out of it, and he destroyed it, and it got chucked in the garbage. And it's like, I wish more than anything we'd had some sense to say, no, you build a sleeper build out of a beige box. So like that one, if I ever see an Aptiva that's all in one, it's got all the parts to it, like I might scoop that up. Sorry, family. Y'all can take a plane home.
I have never thrown anything away.
That's true.
But you have all your original stuff? Whoa.
I've got Amy's 2600 from when we were kids. I've got my Odyssey 2. I've got my Tandy 1000. I'm like a Katamari ball.
Yeah, it's just like rolling.
I'm starting to get some stuff given away, so I might have regrets in the future. So we'll see. We'll see.
For me, it wasn't equipment. It was all of the software projects that I did when I was a kid. Like, I created like a level builder for Red Faction, a couple of key gens, like, things like that you're just never going to get back. And so it's not about the equipment. Those are the biggest regrets for me.
Yeah, because you can buy replacements for the equipment, but the work is gone.
Yep.
100%.
So I have 3 examples. I think we were talking about some of these just yesterday. So when probably around 92, I threw a Commodore PET in a dumpster because I couldn't find anybody to take it. Nobody wanted it because it was that worthless at the time. I also had an Apple Lisa that I tried to sell and give away, and nobody wanted it. Actually, somebody finally gave me $5 for it. That was the joke he was making. And it worked. It was totally functional. I let that go. Another regret I have actually was a little bit more recent, 2005. I had 2 big crates full of stuff I had taken home from AST when we went out of business. I had like one of every model, because I was in the laptop support, so I had one of every model of laptop from like I don't know when they started making laptops, but up until, like 98. And I was like, one day, what am I ever going to do with these? Because they were already obsolete in 2005, and I put them out on the curb for the trash man to pick up. And now I wish I had all of those back. I could do a whole documentary on all the different laptops that we made.
Thank you. Hey, Clint, this is for you. I'd like to know where things come from. In your Christmas videos, where did the clone come from?
If you go back on my videos all the way back to the beginning, you'll see there were a bunch of experimental tests of me just messing with editing software, like in 2006, 2007. And one of the very first ones, you got to try to clone yourself, right? And that was one of the very first things that I did. I think it's still up, a video called Clint Hates Himself, which it's not that serious, but it was a couple of Clint clones, and it was sort of going off like this like a worm's logic or whatever. I had a couple of airsoft guns, and they were just sort of threatening each other. And I'm like, I can do this. I can have my interactions with myself. And I just kind of kept that going. I don't know. It was on a whim one year during Christmas. I'm like, what if I have, my sort of normal, at the time, grumpy, non-Christmassy self, and, the childhood self that still wants to enjoy Christmas and go back and play Christmas Lemmings and all these happy games. So it was always the clone was the really happy Christmas one, and then there was me playing the grumpy one. So that's what that was.
Didn't you ask your clone once how you exist?
Yeah, no, it got
no answer in that video.
It got very existential. They just kept having conversations, and at that point, a third clone came in and just said, "No, we're going to look at some games instead." So yeah, I got a little out of hand.
Yeah, I'm a Patreon supporter of many of you. One thing that I would definitely echo
Thank you.
with the YouTube talk is alternative distribution. Absolutely, I I really hate getting around YouTube, and I like to watch things on my TV, and YouTube puts a lot of advertising when you
Absolutely.
do that. So I find alternative mechanisms. So if you guys do like BitTorrent or something like that, that would be lovely.
I will say
my
that,
question.
I was
go
going to
ahead.
say really quick. I know it's been kind of brought up, like the PeerTube and some other things. I'm highly interested in that. So if I've had a number of people in the past like 6 to 8 months in particular with YouTube continually doing things in terms of age gating in the restricted mode and all this other stuff. They're like, I'm just tired of this service. Is there somewhere else you can post stuff? And I've just told people straight up, rip my stuff, put it elsewhere. I don't care. That's fine. People are putting it on archive.org. People are putting it on Bilibili and Chinese services. Put it everywhere. Chop it up. As long as it's attributed to, but you're not taking stuff away from it and it's still got, like it's clearly an LGR video. That's fine. And I guess I'm just sort of waiting to see which one ends up getting the most attention and like people actually use. And then, at that point, I'll just start uploading wherever it is myself.
One reason I talk about PeerTube is because it does do the torrent thing. And so, it gives you a download button. It is super slick. It's easy. Like for me, that's what I want to do. So I'm with you because I'm a little bit of a data hoarder. So if you want to do that, please do it. And I love that PeerTube makes that just dirt easy. It's way cool if you want to make it easy for people.
Yeah. But before you ask the question, which I know which is what you came for, but you've actually given me my answer to the what's a question that you are maybe afraid to ask. And that's if we ask, hey, does anybody want us to put our videos on FlugelTube? Somebody's going to say, I love FlugelTube. That's so great that you guys are going to be on FlugelTube. And then that is another commitment to, I'm going to have to post on FlugelTube. So Duncan, I guess you better, allocate those extra minutes in your day. So that's it can be a tricky question to ask because the answer will inevitably, the internet will generate the answer of yes. And then it's like, all right. Does that mean we're going to have to do it? Or tell that guy, no, we're not doing it. Why did you ask? We were just checking. So, it can be, with all respect to those who are like, rip it, put it up. Some of us are like, well, we're going to control our distribution, thank you. But, it would open up, extra effort every time you open up one of those channels. But I'm sorry.
I noticed like Vimeo is going away or got bought or something, right?
Yeah, it got bought.
Yeah, and I don't know what that means for it. And I used to be on Odyssey as well, and that's gone.
Odyssey's a big mess.
It's a mess. So it's like I'm worried about having to spend extra brain cycles to support extra services that aren't for sure going to be around. And
It's one of the things I like about, not to keep talking about PeerTube, I promise I'm not being sponsored by PeerTube. But you can just say, I want my YouTube to be mirrored here, and it makes it pretty easy. So I've kind of liked that. I do manually upload it, but that's because I use the API because I'm programming things and I'm a nerd. So there we go.
And now for your actual question.
Yeah, so my question is, and this is for everyone, name a time when you went through a repair that went wrong. What was the worst?
How much time do you have?
Yeah, I was just going to say, we have about 5 minutes left. I'm not sure.
I'll throw the epic one. I had my
do one?
SE30 that I put 12 volts into one of the data lines. We'll have to recapping it. So that destroyed almost everything on the motherboard.
Cruel and unusual punishment.
I luckily had a battery bombed 2CX motherboard that gave up all of its chips to repair that SE30.
I broke my kid's Game Boy Color for her birthday. So I had to go buy a new Game Boy Color on her birthday.
What happened?
Oh, I blew a fuse. I couldn't see anymore because I'm losing my, I need to put readers on when I do work because I'm of that age now. And yes, thank you. And when I accidentally blew a fuse because I bridged something that I should have been paying more attention to. And sorry.
Yeah, in the spirit of kind of like the Grammys for Best New Artist, what new YouTubers in the vintage and retro space are you guys very impressed by and that you think we should all be aware of? And I guess as an extension, who would you like to see on this stage a year from now?
Well, I've got one that I've been talking about all weekend who, I mean, she lives on the other side of the planet, but Sakaya's Digital Attic.
Oh my God, that was the one I was going to say.
Yes, she's amazing. Like I think she's from Italy, and she seems just absolutely wonderful. And the way she cuts her videos, it's concise. It's really slick. I'm a huge fan. She's not going to get here probably, but she's awesome.
Did you know she does her videos in English and Italian?
Is that how? Okay, I was having this whole conversation conversation about this. Yes, that's
And I just in
amazing.
general love seeing young people coming
Yes,
into it.
100%.
Yeah.
Speaking of young people, Ron of Ron's Computer Videos is really awesome. He's on the table next to me. He's not young, but
Young.
Ron's really awesome, and he does interviews of people that are either developers in the past or have been part of either Commodore or Apple, and he has a lot of great content. He's kind of a YouTuber's YouTuber.
Yes, very much a YouTuber's YouTuber.
So I wouldn't necessarily say up and coming, but as far as you ask who would I like to see up here, I'd like to see Alec from Technology Connections up here. And he lives here in town. There's no reason he cannot come here. And I have asked him several times, like, you live right here. Please come to the...
There's a small channel I watch called DIY. And the guy is a professional. He like color grades professionally. He's in cinema, and his videos are beautiful. And if you are looking for a repair, yes, it's a black murder glove repair type of thing. But if you're into those kind of videos, like he does amazing work.
Yeah, get a cinematographer to make a YouTube video, and you've got a film.
Yep.
Great, thank you.
Quick shout out to Posey, by the way.
Oh my God.
Posey, yes.
Posey.
100%.
Hey, so this is for the group. Just wondering, like, what for you? I'm sure if I ask this to 20 different people, you're going to get 20 different answers. But for you guys, like, what makes you so passionate about older technology? Like, what keeps you guys going?
Nostalgia.
The aforementioned, we had ownership over things that we don't have on modern technology is 100% why I keep coming back to this. Because, oh my goodness, to show people a world that we used to have and to have them be inspired to create the world that's going to come tomorrow, if we do that with one kid each day, that's the job.
Yeah, it's the approachability of the old technology, and they designed it, especially stuff in the 80s, that they were okay with you as a user going in there and fiddling around.
Welcome to the world of friendly computing.
Yeah, and even the early Apple computers were designed that way.
100%.
And now, look where we are. And someone asked a question about the future of this hobby, 30 years from now, and the nostalgia is going to slide, right? So that people, when they get older, who are born today, what is going to be left of the hobby at that point? I don't know. But yeah, I love the approachability and the fact that a non-educated person like me who has no training can fix stuff. Yep. I just don't think. I mean, it's not that it's not going to be possible, but it's going to be harder in the future.
It is, and I would say that for me, I do it to learn myself, and I love to learn. It's kind of the name of the channel, Polymath, but it's like I like multidisciplinary stuff, right? So, but for older technology, it's such a great way to be able to learn the hardware and the software, right? And get people excited, get young kids excited about the fact that you don't just have to choose like one path and forget about everything else, right? Like even if you're doing like a CS degree, like just start looking about other things, about the hardware kinds of things, about the material science kinds of things. Like the more that you know, the more you can get interested in. And so I think it's just such a good way to just get kids excited about learning more. And I mean, that's why I do it. I do it to learn.
I had a viewer, I just want to add, like kind of along those lines, someone came up to me today and was just talking to me about their kids are getting into this old technology. And the funny thing is like, people around today have to deal with social media and everything is connected and the world we were in the old days, maybe you're on a BBS sharing a message, but it was like slow, took days. But most people worked isolated, but not that was bad, but now that they're taking phones away from kids in school, it's maybe reminding kids, hey, you can socialize face to face. Yeah, exactly. And you can get together and play games together and you can do all this stuff. And I think these old computers just embody a lot of that. And
online used to be a place you went and left.
Yes.
We stopped leaving, and I think we lost something when we quit leaving, and we need to start leaving, if that makes sense.
Yeah, and you can use a Commodore 64 and you have left.
Yes, exactly.
It's you and the machine and BASIC.
Thank you.
And we have time for one more question.
I just wanted to say, you guys said if you have to worry about where the viewers are going. If you went to PeerTube, any of you, I would like follow you there. I don't want to be on YouTube either. I do that technology connections thing where my homepage for YouTube is my subscription feed and not my recommendations.
Yes, that's the thing to do.
100%.
That is the correct thing to do, and most people who watch YouTube don't understand that. They expect all of their favorite creators and feeds they've subscribed to be on the home page, but the home page can only hold so much. So you definitely, that's a fantastic, I just wanted to point
And it's
that out. That is a
chronological. Like when
fantastic
someone
thing to
posts a
do.
new video, it's like, I see, okay,
It's all
that's why I don't have to worry about like checking every week.
It
don't
solves
upload on a schedule.
90% of the problems on YouTube to just use the subscriptions tab instead of doing all, like 90% of the problems done for us.
YouTube Premium and the subscription tab. Life is great.
Okay, so here's the thing. I'm a software guy, and for a long time, I didn't really collect vintage hardware because I didn't have a lot of space because I lived in a small apartment. But I love emulators. That's actually how I kind of got into all of this. But as I've observed new and obscure pieces of hardware, I've noticed the emulators are actually not up to par. And then I see things like the iPod click wheel preservation where people are like trying to start emulating like devices that are like, why are you emulating an MP3 player? What is something that doesn't really have a good emulator that you would like to see emulated so that people can experience that software? It doesn't have to be rare, but I don't know, rare sometimes.
Are you going to make it?
Maybe, I don't know. Like I'm also hunting for ideas.
There was a lot of really good work recently at the Nintendo 64 emulation scene on the Mister, and they got really close, but they were really kind of limited by the Mister's hardware limitations at getting to like really high levels. And I would love to see that advance. And Nintendo 64 has always been this really hard target to do, and that one, I mean, it's vintage. It is a vintage now, believe it or not, and I think that would be really cool to see.
Well, I'll point out, and Jim can attest, we only just got cycle accurate 8088 IBM PC emulation just recently. So, I mean, there's a lot of stuff out there that's missing cycle accurate stuff that most things will work, but when you really push the limits, like the demos that Jim's worked on, it breaks everything. And so you kind of can look out there to see what's missing, and all the 286 and 386 stuff is not cycle accurate, right? Still, so
That's correct. We actually had a talk earlier where someone is working on cycle accurate 386, but yeah, there's not a lot of it. Certainly, I would join some emulator communities and ask, what's too hard to emulate, and take that as a challenge.
Absolutely.
Yeah. I was also thinking like along the lines of weird peripherals where it's like emulators don't always emulate the peripherals, and that's half the fun sometimes. Yeah. So, thank you.
Well, as they used to say in the days of radio, the hands on the clock on the wall say that unfortunately we have to bring another panel to a close. And before we do, I have two quick announcements to make. The Vintage Computer Festival Midwest is a nonprofit, and we survive based on your support. So if you could be back here in 1 hour for the auction run by our very funny and flamboyant auctioneer Jason Timmons, your support can help make next year's show possible. Also visit the garage sale table, buy some shirts, maybe a mug. We will hawk anything. And the second announcement is that I'm very glad you were all here today to experience this record-breaking YouTubers panel, because after 5 years, this was the last annual YouTubers panel. After 5 years of organizing and moderating the panel, I am stepping down to direct my efforts elsewhere in the hobby and in the show. And I wanted to take a second to recognize some of the people who've been on the panel the longest and really been great just helping put the panel together. Excuse me if I'm at a loss for words. People have been on it for 3 years, like Sean, and remind me who's been on the panel for 3 years. I think this is your your third year, exactly. And then people who've been on it for 4 years. Crazy Ken of Computer Clan is not currently on stage, but he was an inaugural member as well. And Adrian consecutively and Clint non-consecutively. And I would like to give a very special Best Sport Award to David Murray, who's been on the panel all 5 years. Thank you very much for making this panel great. And I mean it from the bottom of my heart, and I'm really glad you guys give so much of your time, so thank you very much.
Round of applause for Jim Leonard.
Jim, everybody.
Jim.
This guy.
Thank you, Jim.
And with that, I have an awful lot of running around to do, so please come back here in 1 hour. Thank you very much.